Former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper has hired lawyers, this after being named in newly declassified documents. Those documents were released by current Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. Director Gabbard, with these documents, alleges that then President Obama and his national security team lied about Russia's efforts to influence the 2016 presidential election. Here's former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper.
And I take seriously when the President of the United States accuses me of being a participant in a treasonous conspiracy, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, what's your reaction to that?
It's ridiculous. It is untrue.
So what will you do if they come after you? What is your plan?
Well, I'll lawyer up, I suppose. Already have.
You've already hired attorneys in anticipation that this Trump Justice Department could try to prosecute you.
We've had sort of perpetual attorneys since I left the government in 2017.
Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard joins me. Nice to see you, Madam Director. And, you know, I love the facts, so I just want to get some background. So, obviously, the last 4 years, the Trump administration couldn't investigate this at all. You weren't in power, although there was a Republican Senate committee that did. So tell me, when did you begin looking at these documents?
Greta, I brought together kind of a special team of individuals, intelligence professionals, shortly after assuming this position that President Trump nominated me for as Director of National Intelligence, to look for the truth around these issues related to election integrity. This is something that I worked on a lot as a member of Congress. This is something of paramount importance, obviously, to President Trump, but really to the American people to have faith and trust in the integrity of our democratic republic. And so we've really spent the last few months since I've been on this job focused on finding the truth, very simply finding the truth to bring about transparency and accountability. So in the documents that we released last week and as well as this week, it really brings forward very clear evidence. And for those reporters who are running in different directions or not covering it all, to me, they've either read it and are afraid to tell the truth, or they haven't even read these documents at all, because anyone who is even moderately objective would read this and wonder, why is it that after the months leading up to the November 2016 election, the intelligence community assessed that over and over, Putin and Russia did not have either the intent or capability of impacting the outcome of the November 2016 election. Fast forward, the election happens in November of 2016. President Trump defeats Hillary Clinton. A few weeks later, in early December, still, the ODNI, then Obama's ODNI and Obama's FBI director, they went and briefed Congress in a classified briefing. And not once did they mention that Putin or Russia aspired to help Donald Trump get elected. This is all in the documents that we released. A few days later, however, there was a secret meeting that was called a National Security Council meeting with the national security principals and President Obama's senior cabinet members. And after that meeting, the Obama ODNI, James Clapper, his assistant, sent out a list of taskings for intelligence community leaders saying, per the president's direction, the tasking was to develop a new intelligence community assessment that details how Moscow tried to meddle in the election in favor of Donald Trump. And this is where things changed. Fast forward to when this report was released in January of 2017. DNI Clapper, Obama's DNI, led the production of it. CIA Director John Brennan tasked 5 people in his organization and worked with the FBI to produce this new assessment that was a 180-degree flip-flop from the several assessments that led up to the election. The Obama-directed intelligence assessment said that Putin and Russia did aspire to help elect Donald Trump in that 2016 election. And so the report that we released yesterday was a result of an investigation that the House Intelligence Committee staff majority conducted. It took them well over a year interviewing several of the intelligence professionals that were involved in the production of this manufactured intelligence document. And it really goes line by line detailing how this assessment that was created in January of 2017 at the direction of President Obama literally manufactured intelligence, knowingly put down falsehoods in order to reach this assessment conclusion that I stated, that Putin and Russia aspired to help Donald Trump win the election when it was blatantly false. They knew it was false, yet they sold it to the American people as though it were true.
You know, it's in my background. I mean, I want to see, I like transparency, so I want to see all as much as I can. I've looked at the report. A lot of it is redacted, so I haven't. But in every situation, as you might guess, people leave fingerprints. And there are two things that stick with me. Otherwise, you know, I wouldn't be so I wouldn't be so eager to find out what's going on, because I think maybe let bygones be bygones, perhaps. But there are two things that they did in plain sight that they tried to do, and I don't think you can ignore that. On October 19th, 2020, they cooked up this letter, 51 signatures, saying that all the Hunter Biden stuff was part of Russian mischief. And to make matters worse, the origin of this was Anthony Blinken, who then went on to become Secretary of State, calling Mike Morrell, who wanted to be CIA director. They get 51 people together to put this document together saying that the laptop thing was a lie, when 9 months earlier, the FBI had already seized the laptop, and they knew that was real. So that and then, of course, in the debate between Trump and Biden in late October of 2020, what happens is President Biden, then Vice President Biden, uses this 51 against Trump. Now, that's in plain sight, which is very suspicious. Now, let me tell you one other thing that really bothers and sticks to me. It's hard to tell someone's intent. You know, people can make mistakes, but I have not gotten over the fact that James Comey had some notes of a conversation with Trump. And what he did with them is he didn't have the guts or the courage to release them to the New York Times like he wanted them. Instead, what he did is he came to one of his pals in New York, a law professor at Columbia, he sneaked into them to sneak to the New York Times to publish. Why was he sneaking around like that? So we've got these weird fingerprints that are in plain sight that make me enormously suspicious, which is why I'm anxious to see all your report, because there are just some red flags that got me, got my antenna up. So that's what I have to say on this.
Yeah, Greta, I mean, you're right. It is difficult to understand intent. This is the hardest thing. However, when you look at this manufactured intelligence assessment that President Obama ordered be created in January of 2017, within the context of everything that happened before and everything that happened after over those 4 years of the first Trump administration, then it is hard to draw, in my view, any conclusion other than that which I've already said, which is this was a conspiracy, a treasonous conspiracy to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump in that 2016 election and the legitimacy of his presidency, and enacted what was essentially a years-long coup. When you look at the years-long Mueller investigation, you look at the 2 impeachments, you look at lengthy investigations, smears by their friends in the media against President Trump, his family, his senior officials within his cabinet and within the White House. The list goes on and on of all of these things happening. And what did they use as the foundation for this? It was this January 2017 manufactured intelligence community assessment that President Obama ordered then DNI James Clapper and CIA Director John Brennan to produce.
All right, well, we're going to need to see that sometime, but I will say this, is that they have left very visible, as I noted, fingerprints out there. They give very good reason that this should be pursued aggressively so that we see exactly the American people, because you know a whole lot more than the rest of us, but there's certainly the fingerprints out there that warrant full and complete investigation. So we'll see. I look forward to full disclosure without the redactions. Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, thank you.
Thanks, Greta.